Hello, everybody. This is my follow-up video to the 5 biggest traps in life. And if you haven't seen that video, I recommend that you watch it. I'm going to put it in the description, or I'm sure you can find it on my channel. So we have 5 archetypal traps here, and now I'm presenting to you the solutions to these spiritual and psychological problems. But before we begin, I have a few important announcements to make. I stopped doing the free readings. I'm sorry, everybody, but I just have no capacity for it. And instead, I'm introducing a free or a monthly reading pool that you can enter on my Patreon page. And all you need to do is pledge $2 or $4, and then your name gets added to the mix of all the other names. And if your name gets picked, you get a reading. But you can read more about this on my Patreon page. But the point is, just by pledging $2, you help me a lot. And it's easier to keep track of the people who want a reading through Patreon. At least that's what I found. There were countless times when I just couldn't reach the recipient of the free readings through Facebook. Patreon is different. It's a better system. And also, by pledging this $2, you help me and my channel grow. So if you are interested in that, you can find the details below in the description, and also a link to my Patreon page. So now that we have gotten this out of the way, let me start by reminding you very quickly, just a quick summary of these 5 spiritual traps. The first one was procrastination. And then we had the need to micromanage everything and to have everything under control. And then we had victim mentality, and then the people-pleasing martyrdom of the 10 of Wands, where you want to be the hero all the time. And then we had the devil with a narrowed down perspective of what is important in life. So here we have addictions, mania, insanity, all kinds of limited and impaired views or attitudes towards the world. And now, starting from procrastination, which I think is familiar to everybody, because everybody procrastinates to some extent. But there are a few of us who are more affected by this. And the antidote to the Seven of Pentacles is the Knight of Wands. So, the Seven of Pentacles energy is very much rooted in passivity and action, waiting for the perfect moment, considering all the pros and cons of the next step that he's never going to take. So it's basically an inactive state where you feel like you are never good enough and you should just wait and wait until the perfect opportunity comes along. Now, the antidote is the Knight of Wands, and knights are usually representative of a less mature energy. It's sort of like a teenagerish vibe. And with the Knight of Wands, this is especially true. The Knight of Wands is all about action. There's a great level of impulsivity and a complete lack of consideration when it comes to consequences. In its lower level manifestation, this card might represent people who are like frat boys, people who are all about partying, having a good time, never having a second of introspection, always looking for a thrill. But in the context of this card, the Knight of Wands is a fresh and very beneficial energy because it represents you getting out of your headspace and moving into a risk-taking mode. So, the Knight of Wands is all about being courageous and taking risks and taking those risks without hesitation. So, if you find yourself in this position with the Seven of Pentacles, it's best to follow any impulses that awaken in you and do something, anything, even if it doesn't look like a good idea, even if it doesn't seem like anything good is going to come of it. Doing something engaging in action, in passionate, fiery action, is going to liberate your entire being and give way to the creative energies to flow. Moving on to the Emperor. The antidote to the Emperor is the Fool. So, the Emperor is kind of similar to the Seven of Pentacles in that there's an idealized picture, a mental image in their head about how the life should be, the life of a moral and useful member of society. So they have all these rules, they have all these mental concepts of how life should unfold. And there's a level of arrogance to that, because even if somebody is in the position of the Emperor, and we all have our empires that we need to control and keep track of, even then, it's important to realize that we can't know everything, and we have to be able to give way to a bigger unknown force. You need to make room in our lives for change and for miracles to happen. And the Fool is absolutely in this state of surrendering himself to a higher power, to fate. And the Fool recognizes that the next step might be fatal, it might be dangerous, it might be uncomfortable. But the point is that if you want to make rational decisions, or if you want to make good decisions, if you want to have a life that is really alive and not just a sequence of completely controlled and coordinated events, if you want to live a life that is full and rich with experiences, you need to give up your sense of self every now and then, and you need to go mad. Sometimes you just need to leave your rational mind behind and go with the flow. And even if you try to design and plan everything in advance, you're gonna find that it's impossible, that it's never going to turn out exactly the way you want it to be. So you need to be able to lose your mind every now and then so you can find yourself. the Eight of Swords, being a victim. Now, with this card, it's all about giving up all kinds of, or all forms of control over one's life. It's when you believe yourself to be powerless over your circumstances. And you just sort of live in a swamp of inaction and self-pity, while the Seven of Pentacles can be neutral. The Eight of Swords, as always, it always has this element of guilt and self-deprecation implied. So, while this is about the negative aspect of the ego, when your ego is so hurt and so damaged that you decide to give up all control of your own life. It comes from ego just as well as with the Chariot. But the Chariot is completely charged with an understanding that self-confidence and optimism and readiness to act is a vital part of staying alive. It's not just about putting food in your mouth. It's not just about shelter. It's not just about money. It's about an inner, instinctual urge, drive to fight, to stay alive, to survive. And there needs to come an acceptance that with this, there's also a chance that others will get hurt. So the antidote to the victim mentality is accepting that sometimes you have to hurt others and you have to look out for your own self-interest to move forward. And in this position, you need to be able to look beyond your concepts and your imagined ideas of how you should act towards people. What you need to focus on is staying alive. Because in many cases, this is a fight for your actual physical life. But even if it's not, it's a fight for your soul, for your individuality. And then we have the heroes, the Ten of Wands, the heroes that always want to save everybody and want to take responsibility for everything. As you can see, there are 10 wands here, and these are carried by one person. And what needs to happen to balance this out is the Ace of Wands if you know anything about card games, you will know that the aces are very special. And in the tarot, aces represent the unified and condensated energy of each suit. So actually, the one who carries the Ace of Wands is more powerful than the person who carries the Ten of Wands. So if you find yourself in this position where you are carrying more than you can handle, and you're always fragmented between tasks and projects that you need to do, and you feel like you can't hold it together, what you need to do is look for a holistic point of view. You need to decide what's the one thing that's really important to you, and you need to act accordingly. So, for example, if you are a person who likes to help others and you find yourself lost and running out of time all the time because you're invited to all kinds of events, or you're asked so often for your help that you feel like you are getting weaker and weaker, what you need to do is find one cause, the cause that fits you best, and you think you can help with the most. And as soon as you do this, you'll find that your desire to assist and support others is going to be fulfilled, but at the same time, you're going to have time for yourself too, and you'll have a healthy balance of me time and others' time. And finally, let's talk about the devil. So, I think this is probably the most interesting pair that I could find, because neither of these cards are necessarily positive or negative. But if we're talking about traps, in this context, I'm going to see and interpret the devil as a problem. But you need to understand that it always depends on the situation. But so let's say that the devil in this case is a problem. It's a problem of focusing on just one thing, one aspect of life, and refusing to deal with anything else. So this could be a heroin addiction where everything you used to care about seems to be meaningless, and your whole day, your whole life is focused on you finding the next fix, which is a very horrible and very sad way to live. But it's all about narrowing down, and many other things belong here too. You can read about this on my blog. And so the point is, with any addiction or obsession or unhealthy fixation on anything. What you need to do is follow the way temperance works. Temperance is all about balance and neutrality. So what we find here is almost a lack of emotion, a lack of relationship with anything. Temperance represents an attitude where, in theory, each aspect of your life or each person involved or each problem is equally important. It's a holistic integration of all the different elements of a problem. So what I mean by this is, imagine that you are the head of a huge family. You can basically have two approaches. The first approach is picking your favorite son or daughter, and favoring them above all the other kids. Now this can lead to some serious devil situations. I don't think I need to get into that. Or you can choose a way of temperance where each and every one of your child feels equally important, and when everybody is important, that means nobody is important. So there might be an element of cold and calculated rationality with this. A democratic approach where nobody is really special. The temperance card has the idea that nothing and nobody is really special. So, in the case of the devil, this can be a healing attitude to have from the healer. If the situation is so severe that there is a healer involved, then this is the correct healing position to be in. This sort of detachment, an impartial way of treating a patient. Or if this represents the person who's trying to get out of the devil's perspective, then there needs to be a broadening of priorities. So, or even instead of priorities, finding different energy points, different points that can be appreciated equally. So let's say if you are addicted to card games, you like gambling, and there might be different levels of this addiction. Let's say it's not that severe. So what you can do is you can look for new things, new activities, and try to find the equal amount of time doing those activities. So the approach here is not radical. It's not saying that the thing that you used to think was important above all, that you should cut it out of your life. It's more like bringing in more aspects, more possibilities. Make your life richer and find many more things to focus on so that your attention is divided between multiple things. So, this was my video about the antidotes. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure to leave a comment below. Have a nice rest of your day, and see you again.